Well, I was about to say with this one, you know what I'm saying? Whenever y'all ready, I can take the floor with this one because I know y'all really know more about this than I do. If we could start off with, if y'all trying to jump off with, start off with episode one.
Sure, when it comes to the Star Wars stuff, Frank, the biggest one that really know it all. See,
Right,
I
for
can tell you
real.
about it when it comes to the movies, but when it comes to like books and comics,
Right, exactly. I only know the Skywalker saga and just a little bit about the Mandalorians. Anything outside of that, I gotta let y'all take that one because I don't really know too much.
shoot, I just started reading these comics here, so like I got to read this one.
Oh, bro, that's a good one.
I got to read this one, and I just finished reading this one,
That is.
so I got to get the other ones now.
I think that's the one I seen. I seen some comments like that. It was like I don't know if they released them like over just like the new year. They were doing that with Star Wars and Marvel. They was showing a lot of like Darth Vader and Captain America type of comics and stuff. I'm gonna definitely have to mess with that because a lot of people starting to collect like more of them comics. And I remember back then we had a lot of. I remember Frank had like the X-Men comics on that back in the day.
Yeah, he had all them things.
Mm.
Bro, I have so many comics. Hundreds. I still got hundreds, but they're digital now.
Oh yeah.
What I'm about to say, if we talk about comics, bruh, I know y'all been hearing me talk about Invincible and everything. I didn't even realize
Man.
Invincible, it was a comic since 2003, bruh.
Yeah, they said it's been here for a minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then it ended 2018. And I asked Maxine, bro, I binged that comic. It was 144 issues, and I binged that comic, all those comics in like a week.
Dang.
Damn.
It's hella good, bro. I can't stress it enough. I know I'm a broken record with this Invincible stuff, bro. But bro, like the comic is, bro. The only thing regarding superheroes that can stand against this comic, bro, is like Injustice. Like DC, this is better than every DC comic I've ever read, besides Injustice and besides the Batman. What was it called? Not Dark Knight, but Batman. When he was like, he went kind of rogue, and he was like, I think he was killing people in that one. I don't know, I forget. But I'm telling y'all, bro.
Sure, I'm not sure.
Anybody who would listen, bro, I'm gonna be like, Invincible comic is now one of my top 10 comic stories, bro.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. My sister was literally just talking about that when she was over here earlier. She was telling me I gotta finish watching that season because she said it gets crazy and crazy the more you watch it.
Right, and I was thinking to myself, like, because the show is good, but the comic is way better. And I was like, I was wondering, are they going to make extra seasons? And they said they're already scheduled for season 2 and season 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's definitely getting legit now. They really gonna just build the whole universe off it now. Cause I was even just based off that first episode, you see how many people got killed off everything. I'm like, it gotta be like a whole universe more of these characters that's out there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a trip though too, because I know in the Black Nerds group, like hella people talking about this. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to really dive into this now.
Yeah, I'd probably watch the first 2 episodes after that. I just, man.
I love it because it talks about how the difference between a hero and someone who want to do something right. There's a huge difference because heroes are like, I don't know. It's a lovely story, but I binged the hell out of that. But anyway, back on the topic. So everyone watched the new season. Everyone watched the new episode, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. So did y'all hear that the clone that had the family? You mentioned that you talked about Rex coming through, right?
Yeah, Rex.
Yeah.
So this is supposedly a few days after. I mean, it's supposed to be a day or so, a day or two after Order 66.
Yeah.
And as you guys know, since we actually got the finale for Clone Wars, you know what happened to Rex and Ahsoka at the end of that.
Yeah, they dipped. So I was wondering if Ahsoka was with them when he came through.
No, because they parted ways after Ahsoka left her lightsabers for Vader to find. So they parted ways, I believe, because she was like, if you got a Jedi and a clone, bro, you standing out in the crowd.
True that. True that.
You know, I think it's interesting though that they're showing us a lot of the subtleties regarding the world of Star Wars or the universe of Star Wars. So like how you can't use regular credits no more. You have to use Imperial credits.
I seen that and I was like, wow, like they like, bruh, Palpatine had this set up from jump when you think about it.
Yes.
This only been like what, like at most maybe 3 days since Order 66, like maybe at most 3 days, and they already got it to where they using Republic credits to now Galactic, like to now Imperial credits though. Like that's a trip.
Imperial, and then they have like so in reality, what we have is what we in the real world is Social Security number. They didn't have that at first, but now that the emperor ordered it, everyone pretty much supposed to have a Social Security number now.
Yup.
And then like if you don't got a Social Security number, you going to jail. And if your car ain't registered or your ship ain't registered, it's getting impound. I was like, wow,
that's how basically the dude was acting so like nervous when he was trying to hurry up and find that girl so they can hurry up and get on and give him the little pill and stuff and all like that. When he was like, man, I'm trying to risk this for my family out here. You know what I'm saying? What was actually the dude? I'm trying to remember the dude's name that was with Hunter. That was with the family. What was the dude's name again?
About Cut?
Yeah, his name actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, bro, that is crazy.
If y'all remember that episode, like I remember when they said we're gonna go to Seleucamai, and I was like, oh, I know that planet, and I knew they were going to find the clone that had a family with his 2 Twi'lek kids.
That's right, because I remember they visited him in Clone Wars, didn't they?
Rex and Father First visited him. No, it was Rex. Was it Rex?
I think it was Rex and Fives, was it?
It was Rex. It was Rex. No, because Rex was stranded by himself. But the only reason why they were on that planet and stayed on that planet because a few of the people were injured, and then Rex was kind of like abandoned or whatever.
Right, but I think Cut though. I think he stayed. I think Cut stayed behind though too because he was like, I didn't want to keep fighting the war.
Right.
Right.
But that tells you that like you don't have to have something wrong with you or something messed up with your chip to get a conscience or to get your free will. Because
right.
Rex beat the chip, right? Rex was like strong. He beat the chip, and
because he was fighting it when he was getting ready to kill Ahsoka. He was fighting it like he was still going through with it, but you can kind of tell that it was more so like he was battling himself. It's almost like he was seeing himself do it, but he wasn't trying to, you know. So because I can't remember, like I think what was it? I think Ahsoka did something to where she could take like the inhibitor chip out or something like that. So that's why he was able to be fine after that.
Right. I wonder if the clone with the family, if he heard, execute Order 66, would he go crazy?
I was wondering that because I'm like, okay, that's the thing though, because when you think about it, he didn't hear the order.
Right.
So,
right.
But then does that mean his inhibitor chip could be malfunctioned because he chose to stay behind and raise a family?
I think at this point, his inhibitor chip is like it's probably active, but it doesn't affect him anymore. So like all the orders that was given to the soldiers, he never heard part of the war. So he can't, that frequency of those words but the thing is like Order 66, it's a voice frequency that connects to the chip that enacts like that order.
Right.
And he never heard it. And the inhibitor chips do give the clones certain personality characteristics, but there's, as we know, there's clones who stand out. So like, for example, clones who want names and clones who have more free will, those are the ones who stand out compared to clones who just fall in line all the time.
Because that's where you get like Rex and Echo and Fives and the Bad Batch. Like you got all them.
Right.
Right.
Like I think.
Because them 5 just in general, they definitely stand out more from all the other like troopers and all them that's out there. That's why I was wondering. Like, I don't know if it was like if they was programmed compared to all the other people. You know what I'm saying? Or I didn't know how. I know it was some backstory to that with these characters. You know what I'm saying? With the first part of them.
That's kind of what I was telling my wife because she asked me like, does each clone individually like have their own personality coded in? And I'm like, yes and no. So it's like they all have like in a sense a different personality, but I think what kind of like builds upon it, like builds their characteristics, basically is what happened while they were in the Clone Wars. So they seen things, they reacted to things differently because they are cloned from the bounty hunter. So I'm pretty sure there's some things in there that basically made it to where it's like, okay, this one has a heart. Okay, this one is just full temper tantrum. This one, like, is just like, I want blood. So, like, I'm pretty sure like all that kind of like plays a part into it, but they don't really get to experience the full characteristic until they go out. Kind of like what you see in episode 2 with Omega. She's like, wow, what is this? Like, what is this? And they're like, yo, it's just dirt. But then when she also started to feel like, okay, he's mad at me and I don't really know why. So she's experiencing things which adds on to her character, which is adding on to her personality as well.
Right.
Yeah.
That's actually a huge scientific / philosophical theory that like you can clone yourself, but right at the moment of cloning yourself, that clone takes on another life of its own because of its own life experience.
Exactly.
So imagine like I clone myself and myself is right beneath me, but I look left for whatever reason and he looks right for whatever reason. That little action changes how you see the world.
Yep.
And the world. So although all the clones were born and bred with the same mind, same personality, when one clone goes to one planet for a mission, another clone goes to another planet for a mission, they now are different people because what they experienced there.
Yep. Exactly.
What did y'all think about the first episode seeing Kanan Jarrus?
Yo, I totally didn't even know that was him because I'm like, yo, that name is hella familiar. So I looked it up and I'm like, oh snap, this is like his little backstory on how he got away.
Yeah, this the character I've been hearing about all this time, so to finally get to see him, this the character I have been hearing about for a minute now.
I wonder if they're going to have him show up again in the show. I think that'd be great to do.
I can see them doing that maybe maybe not later on in this season, but maybe like season 3, maybe.
Because technically, they're all running from the Empire now.
Yeah.
And in the comic, so Kanan Jarrus has his own comic series. It came out, I think, 2018 or 17 maybe. And, maybe 18. And it's pretty much like how he gets away. Like what happened when his master, Depa Billaba, dies, and then what happens after that. And it's like pretty fast paced. Like the comic is like, he pretty much is like running for his life the whole comic series, and they're like right behind him. They might add that the Bad Batch helps him along the way. Maybe Kanan Jarrus, befriends Omega because they're like the same age, and they both have abilities. I don't know what Omega's abilities are, but she obviously has abilities because she's one of the officially made ones.
Yeah, it seemed like she was giving all the signs she was. I thought she was like force sensitive or something. I thought it was that, but I'm not really exactly sure. I think it's based on something else.
I like what it did think force sensitive though, because how in tune she was. I kind of felt like there was a little force sensitivity there, but because she didn't sense the animal creeping up behind her, I'm like, okay, if she is force sensitive, she's very, like, not necessarily very weak, but she's not able to tap into some of that power just yet. But it's hard. But if it's possible for her to be, in a sense, it's possible for her to be force sensitive, but that's only if the DNA was taken from somebody who was force sensitive. Because when you look at, when you look back at the game Force Unleashed, in Force Unleashed 2, he's a clone.
Yeah.
But he's force sensitive because he's a clone of somebody who is force sensitive. So unless Jango Fett is force sensitive, it's going to be kind of hard. Yeah, so like that's the thing, like he's realistically not. But my thing is though, did they genetically alter Omega's DNA to make her a girl? I don't think this is necessarily.
I think they did. I think they did because what we don't realize, and we have to read between the lines, when they say to the Imperials that these clones are defects, that's not the case. That's actually not true. These clones aren't defects; they're specially made, so they're not a part of the mass production line. These are the ones that were created outside of that production line to have certain abilities to see if this, if this would work. And although those 5 clones worked, there were a hella clones that didn't work like that.
Remember the one who was the janitor, and they treated him hella bad. But because of what he did, they gave him a medal after he died.
So that's how most of the clones who did the special treatments turned out. But the 4 of them, or the 5 of them, turned out really well. So I think they made her into a girl, and I think her ability might be like it might be, I don't want to say like just hella smart, but I think she's extremely intellectual because she's technically a child, right? But she's capable. Like she's done some stuff already, knowing nothing about the world of the universe.
Right, and I peeped game too when they when she picked up the blaster and she shot, and then I was like, okay, so I kind of already knew this was a clone, but it's just a girl. But the fact that that's encoded in the DNA, they basically wanted her to be like more so. I think like more so of a like a medical person, but she's able to defend herself as well if need be.
Well, she's good. Like when who asked her? Was it Wolf? Someone asked her like, "You ever shot a blaster before?" She's like, "No, it's the first time." But she shot a gun out of a seasoned veteran clone.
Yep.
Right.
She shot at that Hunter, not Hunter. Crossfire.
Oh, Crossfire.
Yeah. Not Wolf. Hunter. I forget the name. Anyway, so like, yeah, it's like that little piece of it stood out to me. Like, how could she be so good at that? Like she was so good, and maybe
because it's in her DNA. If you think about it, it's in her DNA because they were cloned from a bounty hunter. And peep this too. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the Empire actually made a terrible mistake with not continuing the cloning process because if you ever notice when they start training people to be stormtroopers, you ever notice their shots are terrible, but the clones were actually like clones though, they're picking people off very well. They're picking off people very well. So you kind of notice that a little bit, like the clones, like in episode 2, they're firing back at the Bad Batch, but the only reason why they're missing is because the Bad Batch is they're a lot more experienced, and also they're basically more experienced. So I'm like, it's it's easier to control the galaxy when you have people who are recruited to want to keep everything under control versus you're programming somebody or something to be under control. Because then that's kind of what Tarkin, I think, was scared of was this Bad Batch. Because like, okay, if there's these so-called defects out there, we don't want these defects happening within the cloning system. But at the same time, you would have more defects with people who are being recruited, as you can kind of see in the sequel with episodes 7, 8, and 9 with Finn and the black chick that was in episode 9. They all was just like, no, we just laid out our guns and we dipped. You got more people who would be rebellious than the clones because they had the inheritor chips, because they were programmed.
The First Order, they sucked, bro.
Bruh, First Order is trash.
They didn't do it right at all. I see why Palpatine discontinued the cloning process, and I think it's evil genius. It's genius, bro. And it's more than it's so many reasons. One of the reasons is clones don't feel fear, really. Like they feel, fear like normal, like maybe a little bit of fear, but they don't really feel fear. That's an issue for someone who rules an empire through fear.
True.
Right? So remember when Vader, as we know, A New Hope, all the first trilogy, Vader made them do everything that they needed to through fear.
Yeah,
Through fear.
Yeah, true that.
He was like, "I'm gonna kill your manager. You gonna be the manager now."
Right, and
What
if you
can
don't do it, I'm gonna kill you too and replace you. Basically, he just kept doing it.
Yeah,
Right.
And that's what Yoda would say too. He said, "Fear is the path to the dark side." So you got
Yeah.
a point there.
Yeah, that is true.
That's a good point.
And then one of the other reasons is he didn't want the Kaminoans to, like, okay, so the Kaminoans were the only ones to master the cloning process. Let's say somebody else hired them to create another army for them. Because the Kaminoans aren't, like, they're not owned by the Republic. They're a company that sells product. They had a contract with the Republic. That contract was supposed to continue on until the war was over. The war had been over. Now, that's why they were talking to Grand Moff Admiral Thrawn. I'm sorry, not Thrawn. Grand Moff Tarkin. Is because they had to start a new contract now. So now the new contract, they probably would have raised rates, and then, there could have been anybody else. It could have been, another system who wanted to create clones. They couldn't. The Emperor didn't want to leave that to chance. Also, he didn't want anyone else to have the cloning process because he only wanted it to keep for himself, like literally just himself.
Yeah.
So literally right after the war was over and Order 66 and everything, he destroyed the Kaminoans, bro. We'll probably see that in the show, but he kills all the Kaminoans and destroys the facilities.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if later on he decided to use the Death Star to actually blow up the planet too, just to make sure that there's no evidence left behind.
For real. Because you have to remember, the Death Star was already being created.
Yeah, it was already being created from the beginning of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it was the schematics and everything was being created at the beginning, and by episode 2 is when they actually started building it. I'm sorry, episode 2.
Even when New Hope, they was basically letting me know how the Death Star was there and everything. How they was explaining it to Luke and everything with the Death Star and all that. So,
Well, yeah, because I know episode 2, that you see the schematic for the Death Star, but you don't actually see it being constructed until the end of episode 3. And it's not even, and if you think about it, it's not even actually fully completed until 18, 19 years later? That's how you know it was really completed because that's kind of when we get our first glimpse of it. It's technically Rogue One. That's when it's technically fully operational.
Right, Rogue One, which was which was a few weeks before New Hope.
I think it's a few weeks. I want to say it's a few hours.
It could be because that was right when Leia had that little. That's when the scene opened up with us, New Hope. Right after that, I think in that scene, I believe, if I'm mistaken.
And the ship was created or finished years before A New Hope. They just didn't use it yet because of the fact that, how I say this, the ship was operational for a while. When what's his name? Yeah, Urso. Her dad, Jared Urso. Galen Urso. Yeah, when he starts sending the messages out to the rebels, that's when it was already completed.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I put a little, Easter egg up in here, a little
basically. Because when Jyn Erso was a kid, that's realistically they're like, okay, we basically have majority of this done, but you need to finish the actual weaponized portion of it. And speaking of the Ursos, the fact that they actually had Saw Gerrera in episode 1, bruh, and he was already leading a rebellion though, already.
And he's like, I love how you can tell there was a whole process that the war broke down his spirit and his personality, because the person we know in Rogue One is not the same as what we know now. Saw has been through some shit for real.
And if you actually play the Fallen the Fallen Order game, and you see Saul Guerrero there, you can see he's still fighting. Like he's definitely still fighting in that game.
Yeah.
But he was deeply into it then versus when he came to Rogue One, he was like he was basically, he almost seemed like a crazy dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the war got him crazy for real. And that's what happens when you fight in the Empire, because, their spies are everywhere and the Empire is everywhere. I love how, even without the inhibitor chips, clones still follow orders, right? And if you're strong enough, if your will is strong enough, or if you're, unique enough, then you can stand out. And these 5 clones, they're gonna give the Empire hell. I already know they're gonna give the Empire hell, and I think they're gonna go with the Rebellion. I think they're probably one of the first recruits or the first enlistments of the new Rebellion, because they don't, as you know, Saw Gerrera never called it the Rebellion right now. Like in this episode 2, they don't mention nothing about the Rebellion.
No, not yet.
They say, we're just trying to fight back, because they don't know what this is yet. They just know that, they're rounding up people and instituting these new laws and all this stuff. And then you see the hologram where it's like, what's the monologue? He was like, the Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire.
He was making the announcement.
Yeah. It was great. To secure society. It was a wonderful. I was like, wow, crazy.
Bro, realistically, how they actually connected it all, realistically, to the prequels, that's what I really loved about it. Like when you see him saying, execute Order 66, when you see him saying, we're going to create a new galactic empire to ensure a secure society, like how they actually, I almost want to say that they actually used the same voice track from the movie to really kind of alternate just a little bit. But the fact that they actually did that, though, I'm like, yo, they really got this going.
No, they did, bro. Even from the beginning part when he was like, the attack from the Jedi has left me scarred.
Yeah, even that part.
But my resolve have never been stronger. I was like, bro, he's crazy still. It was wonderful, bro. I was like, I thought it was really well done. And I like how, they gotta show us some more Jedi Purge stuff. Because I don't know would they actually make their own standalone film or standalone series circling or surrounding the Jedi Purge. But that's one of the best Star Wars comics ever, bro. The Purge is great. And it was so great that they actually made other comic series off of the Purge, concentrating on single Jedi and their, will to survive. I think it'll be great if they implement in this show or in the shows to come, them running into Jedi and realizing, oh shit, you're a Jedi. Oh shit, you're a clone. And trying to survive and stuff.
So that was going to be my question too, because I'm like, okay, let's say that this Bad Batch is actually the beginning of the rebellion. Do you think that it's possible that they can actually maybe take a trip, maybe their final season or something? They take a trip over there to Coruscant to try to fight there, and some of them end up losing, of course. But they could actually maybe even run into Windu, since he was last seen on Coruscant, and he's in a sense trying to help with the rebellion as well.
I don't know, man. That's a stretch, because that's pretty much suicide. You go into Coruscant, that's pretty much suicide. And
but it's the Bad Batch, though. They typically go in
I'm
for
about to
suicide.
say they gonna go in, right? Just them 5 going against a whole army, right?
Very first episode, they going in against 50 droids.
Yeah, that boy Wrecker, he wild, bro. Cause he went in against. I remember when he said, what's his name, Tarkin. He said get him real live rounds to go against him, cause they were just going against regular stimulation at first. He's like, okay, I'm gonna challenge them for real, and he was really giving trying to really shoot them for real. And it really threw Wrecker off at first. I'm like, dang, bro, that dude is wild, bro. Every time they throw him anything in live action or animation. I'm like, I keep seeing this dude, and it's like he more menacing the more I see this dude, bro. I'm like, that's that dude is
Bro,
wild.
bro, you know Tarkin was that dude for the Empire. He was that dude because that's who Snoke is basically cloned from. He's basically isn't that what Palpatine? I think I read somewhere that Palpatine basically created Snoke in Tarkin's image because Tarkin was the most loyal.
He was the most loyal.
Like he was, like you think about it, he was more loyal, bruh. I just finished reading this this Vader comic where it starts like right at the end of episode 3, and even then Vader was thinking about going against Palpatine, and Palpatine is like, bruh, for real? Like, bruh, I can end your life right now. Don't play. Don't play me right now. I will end you right here right now.
Large, bro. Like, as you realize, Vader is obviously one of the Dark Lords of the Sith, right? He's a Darth. But he's not above not above Moff Tarkin.
Right.
Grand Admiral Tarkin. Actually, he was under Moff. He was Grand Admiral Tarkin. Yeah. Tarkin was his handler. Because Tarkin was truly evil. Tarkin had no power in the Force. He had no sensitivity or no affinity to the Force. But he truly was a dark side person.
Bro,
Okay,
go
that
back and watch
sense,
episode 4. Go back and watch episode 4 when Vader's got that choke, and Tarkin's just like, that's enough. Vader, release him.
It was like he had no right. He really had no sympathy over. He just like, dude, just let him go, bro. Like, right, yeah, because usually some probably would have reacted way differently to that. Right, that is true.
Asking it, what did Vader say? As you wish.
As you wish. He really
I'm like, bro, Tarkin got pulled like that.
If Tarkin had dark force powers, bro, Tarkin would have been probably, bro, I don't know.
He probably been too
Tarkin-
OP. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, he would have been OP.
For real.
I know. I don't know what he'd been better. I don't know. He would be definitely equal. Definitely.
You mean equal or just slightly better? Like just slightly.
Because the only thing about Tarkin is that Tarkin is, I don't know, bro. Sidious is, I've read and watched and played so many nerdum type of shit, and I can never find an evil boss worse than Dark Sidious or better than Dark Sidious. Like, he is the smartest, most conniving, most evil genius I've ever really encountered.
He really just is. But honestly, because I'll say that Sidious would technically be better because of the politics that he plays. But
Right.
Tarkin is of the mindset where it's like, man, forget politics. I could just let's just go ahead and end this right now. It's like go ahead and fire at will. What? Oh, don't worry. We're gonna go ahead and take care of your rebel friends up on that base. But we're still gonna blow up your planet though. Like, he don't care. That wasn't Sidious giving him that order. That was Tarkin taking over.
And then how he just bullied. Remember he bullied bruh to take the credit for the Death Star.
Exactly.
In Rogue One, I was like, bruh, he a boss.
And even Vader was like, careful not to choke on your aspirations, General. And I'm like, bruh. Even Vader is like, nah. If Tarkin said it, bruh, let it go. So Tarkin being up in this Bad Batch series, bruh, we gonna get more Tarkin.